What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, back in Standard here with a Golgari list. So something was asked by a subscriber, kind of a Liliana deck that can kind of take advantage of kind of all three modes. And, we're approaching rotation pretty quickly. We're here middle of July. Rotation will be happening in September, so we're going to lose a lot of the Undergrowth cards. So if you enjoy that style of play, don't wait until the last minute because it's going to happen faster than you expect. So if you're a fan of this, as I am, play this deck now because it's going to rotate soon. Obviously, we do have historic, but that kind of changes things in a lot of ways. But yeah, in standard, this is going to be kind of your last chance to play it. So Liliana, just to kind of review here, 4 mana, 4 loyalty, Planeswalker, +1. Each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. So we're playing Undergrowth style, so we don't mind filling up our graveyard with creatures. And of course, if we just have excess lands we don't need once we get to a certain point, then we don't mind discarding lands. And forcing our opponent to discard is probably not something they're going to be wanting to do. And if they can't, well, they lose 3 life, so we can kind of chip away at their life total a little bit, which is nice. So we're filling up our own graveyard, so her -3 could be very, very good. Where target creature gets -X, no end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. And of course, -7, we're going to have some pretty powerful threats that we're going to want to get back. And if we force our opponent to discard something, if we've killed one of their powerful creatures, the -7 can get that back, and get one of our own creatures back turn after turn. And this is at the beginning of combat, so that's pretty sweet. You can get potentially some immediate value off it because it does gain haste. And it's from any graveyard, and it comes on the battlefield under your control with haste. Is pretty fantastic. So 3 copies here of Liliana feels like the right amount. And we'll just kind of start at the top here, just to kind of review. So Undergrowth, we'll kind of see what that does as we go along. So eliminate, just a couple copies here. Obviously, we do need ways to deal with our opponent's threats. So eliminate is kind of an efficient way to do that. Creatures, planeswalkers, mana cost 3 or less. Mire Triton, 2/1 Death Touch, mills 2 cards, gains you 2 life. Just a fantastic, versatile card. Glowspore Shaman, 3/1 body for 2 mana. It is black and green, but we have plenty of decent mana, so it should be fine to cast this. And we also, of course, have the Eliminate and Mire Triton as well for missing green for some reason in our opening hand. But when this comes down, we mill 3 cards, and we get to put a land from our graveyard back on top of our library. This can help us, curve out. So if we kept the hand with like opening hand with like 2 lands, but we got a Glowspore Shaman. We can Glowspore Shaman. Probably going to mill a land with 3 cards, and then we get that land back. So make sure you can kind of curve out into your 3 and your 4 drops. So Glowspore Shaman, just really love this card, and that's what the Undergrowth does. It fills up your card with your graveyard with mostly creatures, and then you try to get value off of that. That's kind of the main idea behind Undergrowth. And Gorging Vulture here, so over half these cards are going to rotate. So Glowspore Shaman, Gorging Vulture here. I know people like Timuret calls it dead better, but we don't want to get rid of stuff. We don't want to exile stuff from our graveyard just to make a 2/2. So Gorging Vulture is gonna leave a body behind without having to exile anything, and you gain life as well. So when it enters, you mill 4 cards and you gain 1 life for each creature card this way. And so most of our we're bare minimum of spells and planeswalkers, and everything else is creatures. So we're going to be milling a ton of creatures with this. Milling 4, potentially getting 2-3 life off of it is pretty great, and a 2/2 flyer can potentially help you chip in for damage through the air as well. Otherwise, just jump block. Otherwise, you can just jump block into your opponent's bigger threats, and the creature dies, and it fills up your graveyard that way. So that's fine as well. Midnight Reaper just gives us a source of card draw, 3/2 for 3 mana. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, we take 1 damage and we draw a card. Murderous Rider is a creature removal, obviously a 2/3 lifelinker, or we can spend 3 mana in speed to destroy a creature or a planeswalker. Of course, one of the 3 Lilianas. We also have 3 Acolyte of Afflictions. It's a 4 mana 2/3, one of the few cards that actually does not rotate. But when this enters, we mill 2 cards, then we turn a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So if there's a land you need back, you can do that. Otherwise, you can get planeswalkers, creatures. So if you milled your Liliana or the Vraska, which we're about to get to, you can put that back straight to your hand, not on top of your library, like say with Glowspore Shaman, and then just cast it the following turn if you need to. So having the flexibility here is nice, and it's better than the Golgari Findbroker because it's easier on the mana cost because it's just 2 black green, whereas the Findbroker is double black, double green, which is not always as consistent, and this also mills you at the same time as returning a permanent to your hand, so that's pretty great. Vraska, Golgari Queen, just works fantastic in any Golgari cards, really. She's just kind of very versatile, powerful card, but not like broken or anything. So definitely a lot of fun to play with. +2, sack a permanent, gain a life, draw a card. So, you know, once you get a certain number of lands, we don't really need to keep drawing lands, so we can just sack lands. If we have a creature we don't really need anymore, we can sack that, fill up our graveyard that way, draw a card, fill up our graveyard at the same time. It's pretty fantastic. -3 to destroy any non-land permanent, so planeswalkers, enchantments, etc. And if you do get to a -9, then that's probably going to end you the game, because you just have to deal damage with any creature, and boom, you win the game. Couple Cavalier of Night. Some nice life gain here with a 4/5 lifelinking body. We can sack a creature to destroy a creature on our opponent's side. So it's a creature in the form of removal, same as a Murderous Rider. We do have to sacrifice a creature, but you know, we don't mind filling up our graveyard. And if our opponent has removal with a Cavalier of Night, well, we get a creature back onto the battlefield with a 2 or 3 drop. We don't have any 1 drops, but you know, we have plenty of 2 and 3 drops, so we can get those back and get additional value. Continue milling, filling up our graveyard. And either way, we can get value off of everything this card does. Couple Underrealm Liches. We're doing lots of self-mill. Underrealm Lich also does that as well, but also prevents us from losing to self-mill because it's a replacement effect. It's a 4/3 for 5 mana, which is not anything amazing. However, you can pay 4 life to make it indestructible. You have to tap it until end of turn, so it can be a little bit awkward in certain combat situations where if your opponent tries to remove it, you have to pay the 4 life, make it indestructible, and tap it, so you can't actually block with it. So that's definitely one of the weaknesses, but generally speaking, it's going to protect you from like sweepers, and if your opponent isn't able to target with removal, and you just block with this in combat, you take 4 instead of 6 or 8 or whatever the creature is on your opponent's side that's trying to attack into you. And so the replacement effect here is if you draw a card, instead of looking at the top 3 cards of your library, you put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So it fills up your graveyard, gives you fantastic card selection. By the time you drop this, you don't really need lands, so you can just take the best spell, pitch the land, and whatever other spell you don't necessarily need, or just 2 lands and just keep the 1 spell that's up there in your top 3, and continue filling up your graveyard for Liliana and things like that. And then, if the game does really drag on long and you just actually run out of cards in your graveyard, in your library, you actually don't lose, because Underrealm Lich is a replacement effect. You cannot lose to self-mill. Lotleth Giant is our big payoff. I really wanted 1 4 of, but I wanted to also make room for 3 of Lilianas, along with the Acolyte and the Vraska, and some of the things we're trying to do. So ended up cutting it down to just 3 copies here with Lotleth Giant. 7 mana, it is pretty expensive, but we have ways to reanimate it, so we're not too worried about that. And also, being Golgari, we're pretty grindy, so it's not hard to get to 7 mana naturally. It is a 6/5, and when it comes down, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard. So boom, that's exactly what the Undergrowth payoff here is. As we can kind of one-shot our opponent in a lot of times, especially if we're chipping away with Liliana, forcing our opponent to take 3 damage because we don't have anything left to discard. We've chipped away with like our Gorging Vulture in the air and things like that. And finally here we have a couple copies of Molderhulk. It's another Undergrowth effect here, 6/6, 9 mana, which looks pretty steep. However, it's 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. And when it enters, we get a return a land card back from the graveyard to the battlefield. So some nice value here. You can definitely get this down for 2, 3, 4 mana pretty consistently. And it comes down, it's a 6/6, puts another land on the battlefield. Which obviously worked well in the previous standard when you had things like Memorial, the Black Memorial, which you could sacrifice to get creatures back. But we do have Fabled Passage, which works nicely with Molderhulk as well, thinning, mostly just to thin our graveyard or our library, honestly, to get those lands out. So yeah, mana base here, just the basic 24s, because we'd have Glowspore Shaman and things like that to kind of find us lands, Molderhulks, things like that. So you don't want to run too many lands, but 24 feels like it's the fine number to run. So we do want some card draw for the late game. So just 1 Castle Locthwain. You could maybe go for 2, but just running 1 here. 8 swamps. Got the new Jumpstart art. The Reanimate fits in perfectly here, so yeah, gotta love that. 5 forest. Forest don't really have any flavor for that, but I felt like this was pretty close with the the Venus flytraps that look like they're about to eat this deer. So that felt like it was close enough to the thematic. 4 Overgrown Tombs, of course. 4 Fabled Passage, just for the kind of the Molderhulk synergy and to find that green source when we need to. And then a couple Temple of Malady from additional kind of scry and fixing as well. All right, sideboard here. A couple of disfigures for those aggro matchups. You know, we're firmly in the grindy territory with this deck, so we want ways to kind of deal with our opponent's early aggression. So things like disfigure is kind of a necessary evil to kind of help us deal with opponent's threats in the early turns. Agonizing Remorse, of course, you need some way to deal with your opponent's mid-range and control decks. Assassin Trophy just for the versatile removal aspect of it. Sorcerous Spyglass to help us shut down planeswalkers or anything else with activated abilities we don't necessarily want to see. Probably don't care too much about the some of like Priests of Forgotten Gods and things like that as much with this because we kind of want stuff in our graveyard, but not always, so it kind of depends. We do have the 3 Thrashing Brontodons because it's a sacrifice effect, so we can fill up our graveyard with a creature while dealing with an artifact or enchantment, and just a nice 3/4 body as well. And we're running the Fabled Passage, so this is another reason why we were comfortable running Thrashing Brontodon, because we're mostly black. As you saw, most of the spells were black. Brontodon, of course, is double green on turn 3, which is going to be a little bit tricky when you're kind of leaning more towards the other color. But the Fabled Passage in the main is going to let us cast the Brontodon on curve more often than not. And so a couple copies here of Leyline of the Void. We don't want our opponent to do any kind of graveyard shenanigans. And then 2 copies here of Liliana for the very late game grindy matchups. Just kind of comes in whenever we feel like it is a good fit. Game's gonna run long. Liliana come down, make a zombies turn after turn. Force our opponent to sacrifice creatures. We obviously don't care about filling our graveyard with creatures. And then of course the -9 is pretty much game ending. Alright, so just to kind of go back to Leyline of Void, obviously there is some graveyard hate in Standard, but I think it seems like the cycling deck is kind of fallen off a little bit. I pretty much don't really see that hardly often anymore. I don't know if people are just trying new things or if it's not quite as good. I really haven't been playing ranked hardly at all lately, so yeah, I don't know. As far as graveyard hat, I don't really know honestly how prevalent that really is. But obviously, it is still a thing, and you shouldn't be mindful of having graveyard hate, which means your opponent could be running graveyard hate. So since we're trying to fill up our graveyard, that kind of sucks. So Leyline on the Void, definitely not something we want to see. We do have the Brontodon and the Trophy to kind of help us deal with that, along maybe like an Agonizing Remorse. But if they're just running, you know, like the one-shot things like the Soul Guide Lantern or the Tormod script, we have so much graveyard ways to fill up our graveyard that you can, most of the time, you're going to be able to recover from that. So even if they do wipe your graveyard once, you still most likely be able to fill up your graveyard again and still get enough Undergrowth value that the deck still can function. But obviously, a Leyline of the Void is definitely pretty terrible because everything just goes to exile permanently, and you have to deal with that enchantment. So that's probably the one biggest weakness is the Leyline of Void, but I don't think this has been seeing as much play. But of course, the algorithm being what it is, it'll probably match us up against that right away. But we'll see how we do. All right, up against Barry. 3 lands, 2, 3, 4, and 5 drops. Yeah, seems pretty solid. I'll keep. Turn 1 mountain. Alright, so we want to crack this so we can play on curve. Don't we have anything double green? We do have triple black, and we have double green anyway, so yeah, we'll just grab a swamp. Okay, opponent on is it so far? We'll not play anything. Yeah, swamp. The Mire Triton down, gain some life. See if they shock it or us, kind of counteracts that. But no shock. There's a Liliana. Is it locked? It's not a card you see every day. Overgrown Tomb. Alright, we'll attack 2. So we counteract that. Play a Gorging Vulture, we'll get some life back again. Now lots of creatures. Alright, so we'll see how they play this, but we'll probably go for the Acolyte here. Shock, play Acolyte. Another reason to have all the life gain is the shock lands. Alright, claim the Firstborn. Do we care about that? Yeah, I'm fine with just taking 2. I don't. Oh, Transmogrify. That's cute. And they get a Yadaro. It has Trample, so that kind of sucks. How many cards, creatures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, Fabled Passage makes 8. Liliana come down and minus kill Yadaru.
Run now, and I might spare your life.
Alright. So yeah, pretty cute play from our opponent. Obviously, claim the firstborn into transmogrify doesn't really work if your opponent's not running creatures, so I'm not really sure what their plan is beyond that. Alright, let's attack first. It's Acolyte. Underrealm Lich. Probably want that. Are they running Planeswalkers, though? I'll just grab the Witch. It'll kind of be the safest play. We'll plus and discard the... That is tough. We'll play the Lich next turn, so we'll discard the Swamp. Get rid of an island. So could have kept the land and just get the Molderhulk down. Okay, claim the firstborn again. Could kill our Liliana here since it does have flying. It's annoying, but whatever. It's a very weird strategy from our opponent, just to claim the firstborn, hoping your opponent plays creatures and hope you have Transmogrify at the same time. So we'll attack first, see what they do. Underrealm Lich is going to give us the value we need. And we have protection from pretty much anything they do. Okay, then crack a locket, draw a couple cards. Okay, Shimmer. Is that really all you're trying to do? Is just steal your opponent's... Hope your opponent is playing creatures that you can steal with Claim the Firstborn and then transmogrify them into a Yadaru? Do you have any other creatures? Do you want land or Mire Triton? We're at, what, 15? I don't think life gain's too important. Probably just want another land. Get this, maybe get this Molderhulk down. The creature gets a cost reduction anyway, so... I have something here. Okay, I'm not choosing not to use it. Opponent at 2. Do we want the Molderhulk or Liliana? Probably doesn't matter too much. Or just Molderhulk. It's going to be hard for them to deal with a big 6/6. And let's go for the Locthwain. Well, they're at 2 life, so I feel like this game is just about over. Liliana doesn't do much because they have plenty of stuff to discard. Okay, Omen of the Sea. So you have plenty of card draw and ramp effects that kind of help you find your combo pieces. But yeah, if your opponent's not playing creatures, like what do you do? And do you have something in your sideboard to help you find to help you make creatures, like creature tokens? So there's things you can do in red. That gives you creature tokens. Obviously that is in historic. Okay, no creature. If they did play a creature to try and defend themselves, we'll just Cavalier it. Yeah, kind of a weird list. No Planeswalkers, so I'm not sure about Spyglass. Doesn't like Eliminate was doing much there. Definitely want the Agonizing Remorse to kind of hit their combo pieces. Trophy. They're mostly spells based, so I don't know about having a trophy to deal with any permanents. Brontodon to kill their lockets seems pretty dumb. Doesn't seem worthwhile, I should say. It is a 3/4 body though. Tempted to bring in Liliana, but what do we drop? We'll shave off 1 Glowspore they're not running creatures, but I don't need to run too much removal. But they do have the Yadaros, so we definitely need to be wary of that. The Triton with the Death Touch can kill it, but Trample versus 1 toughness doesn't really seem very appetizing. Vraska, yeah, Vraska's not really doing too much. So we'll go Liliana just to go a little bit bigger. And try like that. So we got the Remorse to kind of hit their combo pieces out of their hand. We have both Lilianas here, so I think we're pretty much guaranteed to win, right? If we can find both Lilianas. Okay, Fabled Passage, get us a Swamp, Forest, into Glowspore Shaman, get us another 3rd land. We can Midnight Reaper, and should be fine from there. That is the power of Glowspore Shaman, just gives you that early game assurances, even if you keep a hand like this. And we have the Lotleth Giant, which we can discard to the Liliana. Alright, no blue from our opponents. So I'm grabbing a Swamp. Also have the Mire Triton as well, but we definitely just want lands here. Just looking for lands. Do we just want a Swamp, or do we crack Fabled Passage? I guess Fabled Passage. Thin the deck. Don't want the Temple because we do want to play, I think, the Midnight Reaper here. Actually, we should grab Swamp because we're stuck at 2 lands. That was a mistake. That's fine. So we will Mire Triton. Get some life that way. I guess we can crack it now. Alright, so now we got the Midnight Reaper next turn. Unless we draw a land, we have some options. Well, we got 5 power on board, and our opponent's not really doing too much. Active Treason to steal that and hit us for 3. Okay. Remorse is tempting, but I'd rather just get the Midnight Reaper down, so we do need some lands. So get the card draw going. And more threats. They could have like a sweeper effect, like a Storm's Wrath or something like that. But if they're running all these kind of spells, that doesn't seem very likely. Alright, Agonizing Remorse, since we're stuck on lands. Good to cast here anyway. 2 Transmogrifies. Shark Typhoon, they're stuck on blue. I guess they claim the Firstborn. They don't have anything to transmogrify, and they're missing blue for the Shark Typhoon. So, yeah, does that lock it? But now you're just dead on board. So, even though we're stuck on 3 lands, the Glowspore Shaman at least gave us a chance. Obviously, if they were, how should I put this, a more tuned deck to face off against aggro, they'd probably have some more shocks and things like that to kind of deal with this board, and we've obviously drawn some cards with the Midnight Reaper, or at least a card, since they likely would have targeted that, and that would have helped us find some lands to kind of help us keep going. Acolyte could have found us a 5th land to Underrealm Lich, or whatever. We also could have just played the Liliana and just try to uptick and get the value there, especially if they're just killing all of our stuff. We have plenty of cards to discard as well. So, interesting deck. Seems like it definitely could use some refinement, but it's an interesting idea. Alright, up against the Yak Whisper. Go first, sure. Or 1 land. This was 2 lands, absolutely 1 land. Guess we ditch a forest. I mean, it's a pretty slow hand, but we are on the play at least, so having a 3-drop isn't terrible. Charm Stray. It's cats, it's life gain. Glowspore is pretty reasonable. We'll do that. Probably don't mind keeping a land, just to get the Acolyte online. I go Castle. Seems fine. Thanks to the Overgrown Tomb, we can Castle next turn and Midnight Reaper. Do we block here? No, we want to get the Midnight Reaper down, so we'll just take it here. Do want to trade off eventually, but I'd rather draw a card if I'm going to do that. Fencing Ace. So double strike will deal with both of our creatures. We do have the 2/3 body that can kind of help us with that. Ooh, Glorious Anthem, that's cute. Yeah, we'll block there. So we do need to find like an eliminate or something to deal with this fencing ace. Even Vraska would do the trick. Let's go on Acolyte, see if we can find a Vraska maybe. It's kind of another nice thing. Liliana works as well. That'll kill that fencing ace. I could have attacked for 3 there, but we'll we do need to preserve our life total if they had removal for the Acolyte. Then obviously we still need to hold up the Midnight Reaper as a blocker. So let's see what they play here. Okay. Seems like it might have been a wasted spell there, but what do I know? Minus. There's not anything in white that has haste, so we'll swing in for 3. Play a Tomb. Alright, so now we have to decide if we want to keep playing lands. So we can play both of these, or we can Acolyte. We want multiple creatures down. So we'll plus, and we'll discard the Tomb. Dungeon Geist, okay, so they're 2 colors. Play you, see what we hit. Another Liliana. Do we need lands? I don't think so. Do we want the... one way to deal with this Pride Mate. So we'll Acolyte and get a Murderous Rider back, unless we hit a Vraska maybe. I think we'll actually take the Vraska and say no attacks. Alright, so we're pretty well set up on defense here. Keep our Liliana alive. If we draw a land, we can Vraska and Vulture. If they want a combat trick, that's fine. We'll block with the Shaman just because. Excuse me. Moment of Heroism. Yeah, that's a good card, sure. So they do the thing. Draw ourselves a card. We did find a land. We found ourselves a land. I do like Vraska killing the Anthem. So let's do that. And we will Cavalier. Sack you. Draw a card. Destroy you. Another Fabled Passage. I want the Vraska to probably kill either a creature or the Anthem potentially. Although without creatures, the Anthem doesn't really do a whole lot. Do need to consider our life total, but we do have the 4/5 online. We'll discard the Fabled Passage. We'll crack that just to get rid of priority. All the green we need, so we'll just grab a swamp. Alright, so next turn, yeah, we can Vraska plus Vulture. So since we are down to 11, we probably should be a little bit mindful of our life total. Vraska, probably just keep the board clear. Mire Triton get us some life back as well. But let's go with the Vulture. Doesn't matter too much. More life gain upside with the Vulture. And we'll plus, get rid of your last card. We do is our Mire Triton, but that's fine. We have stuff we want to get in our graveyard anyway. And now we can start sacking these lands to our Vraska. So play you plus. Now that we don't have anything in hand, they do. I mean, they kept a pretty sketchy hand without blue mana, and they're playing all these blue spells. Alright. So I probably want the trophies so we can hit either the creatures or Anthem. Probably the Brontodon in that case as well. Disfigure could be okay, but if the creatures grow out of range, then that's a little medium. Alright, so what is not as good, or what can we shave off to make room for all these? We'll shave off one of these to make room for the trophies. I guess a vulture. And what else? What else? What else? I mean, we do need all the removal to deal with their creatures, so we can keep their creatures off the board. Midnight Reaper for the card draw was fantastic. Came in clutch there. I don't think I want to shave off any of those. Liliana could be vulnerable in certain spots, so I think we'll go ahead and do that, even though we don't want to. And maybe Acolytes, or... Let's come down as a 6/6, could be pretty good. We'll shave off a Giant. We'll just do that. If we want everything else. We did win, so we do obviously have the advantage of adjusting for game 3 if our sideboard doesn't quite work out. But yeah, this is a fine opening hand. So two Overgrown Tombs, we can play the Brontodon on 3, and the Underrealm Lich will give us a nice late game. And I can pretty much block any Pride Mates or anything else that grows too big for us. They found their blue this time, so it could be a little bit different game. I'll still lead on the Overgrown Tomb. And now we don't have to shock in on 3 for the Brontodon. So Flashing Sailor. So your Azorius life gain / flash. That's cute. Gain some life, start filling up our graveyard. No Midnight Reaper in hand, so I'll probably just go for the block if they attack in with the Charm Astray. Although now that they have a Pride Mate out, probably I just want to keep the Death Touch online for that, especially with a Brontodon coming down. Alright, we don't have a turn 4 play as it stands, so I'll just lead on the Tomb, and then we've got Underrealm Lich. Can help us fix our draws. So we'll see what our opponent's up to here. They have their blue mana online. Yeah, you can attack him through the air. Just for one, sure. So now they could go up counter magic or something. We do have a 3-drop. So hope we can dodge a counter spell. Brineborn, cut through. Sure. Could have unsummoned though, we saw that. Get discarded, I believe, in the first game. And there's the unsummon. So if they attack, we still want to probably focus on the Pride Mate first. Okay, so they have a moment of heroism here. That's fine. We're still at 16, so we're okay. I'm just going for the Fencing Ace. They do have a card in hand, so could be something nasty. So we have Lich now here for 5, and next turn we have Brontodon plus Vulture. 6, and if we curve out, we have a Giant. Which doesn't really do much, but is a 6/5 body. Okay. Empty-handed now. Pride Mate number 2. So our opponent's gone super wide. Obviously want to deal with that and that. So we're not finding our removal this game. And they've found their blue, so that's been the key. You get to draw a card. So play you. And play you. To get some life back, we got a flyer now. Double Liliana. We didn't gain a single life from that. Jeez. So everything went our way, I guess, in game 1, and now it's our turn to just kind of get screwed over. That's the way it is. We do have some some pretty decent blocks though. I think I do want to get this cutthroat off the board, so if they want to... okay. You're nothing in hand, you're just attacking with 3-3 when I have a 3-4 down? I don't understand. Yep. So we have you. Yeah, let's Molderhulk, get a nice 6-6 body on board. So if most of the interaction is unsummons, then I think we're okay. It comes onto the battlefield, not tapped, so we could crack the passage, but probably just go for the tomb, that's fine. Yep, they get to draw a card with the Sailor. And stay back on blocks. 8 life here, so not ideal. Op is a very suboptimal card, I would think, in an aggro list, but you know, you're trying to combine flash and life gain. So you do what you gotta do. No plays from our opponent, but they still have a card in hand. That's interesting. Let's Acolyte, and we have 5 men open. Didn't you start gaining some life? But we probably just want... I mean, kind of want this Vraska, honestly, just for the potential card draw. We have the Lich, though, so that's fine. So let's see if we can resolve this Liliana. We could bounce our Gorging Vulture. Plus, we'll get rid of the last card in hand and ditch the Giant, since it's not really doing a whole lot. Okay, so now you take 3 damage instead. And no attacks. So we're set up okay now. We do need to obviously worry about flying and things like that. The Spectre Sailor is going to give them a ton of card advantage, but we've got the Underrealm Lich that kind of help us out with that as well. Would also like to get a Vraska online, that would be nice. So we saw the moment of heroism in the last game. Let's empty our hand, and then we'll uptick Liliana. Can also minus it at some point, but I think we're okay with a pretty decent board state. So force them to get rid of something. They have 2 cards in hand. Impassioned Orator. Yeah, no attack still. Want to be a little bit more set up, maybe have some removal in hand or something. Okay, Pridemate down, no life gain, that's fine. It does feel like they have like a combat trick or something though, so do need to be wary of a moment of heroism. So we'll block you and you and you, I think. Yeah. See what they do. So right now we're doing 6 damage. They can, I believe that does +2, +2. So we're going to be killing the Cutthroat. And we're killing the Fencing Ace as well. There's not much they can do against the 6/6. Yep. We'll activate. Keep our dude alive. Resolve. Take no damage. Kill 2 of your creatures. Get some life. Draw your Pridemate. We do draw a card. Yeah, I want that pretty desperately. Acolyte can get us also something back. Oh boy, this is an interesting call. Brontodon is kind of holding down the fort, but kind of want to sack the Vulture and get rid of the Sailor so I don't get card draw. The Pridemate's not really doing too much. Same thing with the Brineborn. So let's do that. We're going to take another damage from the Midnight Reaper, but that's fine. So we'll get rid of you, so we'll get rid of the card advantage. Eliminate, yes. So we're at 2. Let's minus. Eliminate. And now we can start swinging in. Ooh. Alright, so it got us down to 2. Some of that was definitely self-inflicted. But the thing with Golgari is it grinds very, very well. So it's kind of a bend but don't break strategy at times. And yeah, not really much our opponent can do once we cleared the board like that. Liliana, she's very fun in this style of deck. Pearl Fist Oak, cool. Actually saw a content creator make a pretty fun deck with that card. So yeah, it was pretty cool. All right, where are we at? So Zombieanimator. All right, so for the Liliana, kind of a zombie, more of a zombie tribal. Really trying to focus on Liliana's all three aspects of her. Undergrowth is the way to go. Molderhulk is a zombie. Lotleth Giant is a zombie. Underrealm Lich is a zombie. Midnight Reaper and the Mire Triton as well. So most of our creatures are zombies. We have Undergrowth theme going for us. This deck can do okay in ranked if you want to try it there, but it's probably more of a fun kind of a casual deck. But yeah, on the lower levels, it certainly can hold its own. I would imagine. But yeah, like I said, most of the cards are going to rotate, and so if you like this style of play, play with it now because the rotation is going to happen sooner than we expect. But yeah, we do still have historic, of course, so there's certainly that option as well. Liliana, definitely have a ton of fun playing with this. So obviously the Grixis list would have posted yesterday, so if you saw that one, this is definitely another take. So it's kind of fun that she can kind of apply in completely different types of strategies. You have a Grixis control, and now we have a kind of a Golgari, almost zombie tribal, not quite, but basically zombie tribal Undergrowth. And she fits in perfectly in both strategies. So it's kind of all about how you kind of synergize the cards together, and that's kind of a big part of what we're trying to do here on the channel, is just kind of focus on synergy and not so much on just playing the best cards just for the sake of playing the best cards, because it tends to feel very restrictive with what you can play with. And we're about just trying to have fun with both the deck building and the actual play process itself. So yeah. Undergrowth is definitely a very fun deck. I'm happy to revisit that. Liliana definitely adds another dimension to it. We're very powerful. Still love Vraska. Obviously, she fits in perfectly fine with this strategy as well. But yeah, after playing it a few times, I think I like the way the ratio of cards kind of sits at 2s and 3s and things like that. And Golgari colors, you have some nice sideboard removal and hand hate options as well. Brontodon, we were able to cast that the last game there, and so even though it seems like it might be hard to pull off that double green, I think the Fabled Passage does nicely, especially pairing with things like Molderhulk or even the Acolyte of Affliction if you're kind of desperately trying to curve out within like a Cavalier of Night or something like that. Underrealm Lich is just a super fun card. Those definitely happy to play that. We got some ton of value being able to kind of filter our draws to get the best out of the top 3 cards, things like that. Unfortunately, not get the Lotleth Giant play, but obviously there's going to be some matchups if you play this enough where you're going to get some value off of this, and it's going to come into play, and it's going to hit your opponent for like 10 damage out of nowhere or more. So that's something to look forward to. Yeah, don't think I have really too many other thoughts on this list. So thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.